a quick minute here. Yeah, welcome everybody to kind of our next weekly tactical growth talk here with the Stacking Growth Group. We have another great, amazing speaker here, Josh Bretag, coming all the way from Australia. It's 7 a.m. here. It's 2 p.m. here in Seattle, Washington. We're staying safe, but also sharing our knowledge around the globe. And I'm happy to have Josh speak here. He's been a great active member in the community with the Stacking Growth Group, as well as Telegram, sharing his knowledge and thoughts on media buying, ad buying. But without getting more into it, I guess I'll let Josh do a little quick intro about yourself and your background, and we can get right into it.
Yeah, sure. So started out as a chef originally, then got into digital marketing. So you might find out a bit about that later on if you see about it. So I worked with brands like Simba Sleep, Canva, Healthy Mummy, Wonderbly, Lost My Name, these sorts of places. So like with Simba Sleep, helped grow them from 0 to 38 million in funding. With Canva, I was there to help them get to their $1 billion evaluation, added about $10 or $15 million to their bottom line. And then with like a Healthy Mummy, added $2 or $3 million in 2 days, doing a sales launch process with those guys. And basically just run a performance marketing agency focused on growth overall. So I look at from the front end to the back end and where you need to work. And often a lot of people have the problem of they don't realize their attention is only where all the money is made and not so much on the acquisition side. So we help a lot with that as well, which is really quite fun and quite enjoyable. I really enjoy it. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your background, especially with your past kind of like growth success case studies and stories as well. I think a lot of us, especially in the marketing and social world, have used Canva as well too. Canva definitely is one of the biggest stories that came out of the Australia startup scene too. It's been amazing seeing kind of that unicorn status coming out of nowhere. It's just an amazing product too. Today's topic is really kind of covering kind of the shifts and changes of the whole marketplace from like ad buying, media buying as well. I guess you kind of want to talk about what have you seen in terms of the changes for this kind of, I guess, dynamic shift with COVID and everything that's been going on?
Yeah, so I've been seeing there's a lot of, I would almost want to say misinformation out there about like people aren't buying. You can't market now, you can't sell now. And I want to be like one of the guys that says, no, you can. We have plenty of clients and our own brands that have increased throughout the COVID place. So if you're doing anything around like immunity, anything around education, online education, coaching, things we're doing quite well as well at the moment. Anything that's related to like home delivery service and stuff like that, that's working well at the moment. Like we pivoted into, as an agency, CPA offers. So that worked out really well for us. So like we've gone into like the prepping niches, the gold, alternative investments, these sorts of things are all working quite well. So it's like thinking about where you can pivot towards and how you can pivot your business towards that. Because people are still buying. It's just the fact that they're not buying as much as what they were before. So there is still money there. It's just not as abundant as it was. I do believe that's going to get tighter and tighter as COVID goes on, because we believe, based on looking at historical stats of what happened last GFC and also what happened last time a plague kind of happened, that it comes like with a plague, it kind of comes in phases. So it's going to come in like 4 or 5, maybe 6 phases over about, we reckon, a 12 to 18 month kind of span. So we reckon what's going to happen is we're going to have this thing of like, okay, we've got the lockdowns at the moment. And then all of a sudden, those things are going to start moving those restrictions. Okay, so the money's going to start coming back up again because people are starting to get employed again. They're coming out on the other side of it. But then all of a sudden, the cases in COVID are going to start increasing as well with it. So they're going to have to lock it down again. And we reckon that's going to happen 4 or 5 times. So be prepared for that wave. So that's just something like I think would be a good idea, just to keep in mind. Keep that in mind when it comes to when you're coming forward to like going forward and thinking about how you're going to invest your money and how you're going to save it. For us, I was very lucky that my accountant told me 2 to 2.5 years ago that there is going to be some sort of market correction happening. So make sure you've got capital sitting in the bank and ready for that, because that's when we're going to go on a massive talent acquisition and a market acquisitions hires. So we're just going to go on, buy other agencies, buy other brands that haven't saved up the capital to survive through this period. So that's where it's been like good for us, but that's like, be aware of that, because it's like, yeah, we were aware of it for the first round, but now you guys can be aware of it for the 4th, 5th, and 6th time when it happens, and other people just haven't thought that far ahead. They've only thought, how do I get, money on the table for tomorrow? sort of thing, or like I have to cut on my staff, or these sorts of things. So that sort of stuff, like think about that with the context. And then another good one that we've done really well for partners is we've actually done partnerships between different clients of ours and external clients. So it's like, we know, like, for example, there's a client of ours that has a 200K list, and then we have another client that has a product that has high overlap with their core audience. So we did a CPA deal between those two clients. So it's like, cool, I'll pay you $50 per every person that buys my product from your list. So just a straight up kind of like affiliate offer. But a lot of people, for some reason, don't look at that when they're running businesses or working with other people. So it's like, you have this audience already that other people want, and they're happy to pay for it. It's just a matter of finding who is the right person to target that towards.
Which is a really great point. I mean, you touched on a lot of great points that I guess we could kind of unravel there. I mean, like what I liked what you just shared about was thinking about a little bit more long term. It's like, yeah, we're seeing kind of like on the e-commerce side these spikes, right? Like we see some people winning, like sales go up massively, but how long could that really sustain and last? And when you're thinking about like the different waves as well too, we see like places like even Texas, they want to open up ASAP, and Trump wants to open up the country ASAP, whereas the other cities like New York, Washington State, and other places want to kind of like pull back before they open up everything as well, because there will be that second wave. And just because it gets more sunnier, people go outside, like it's you can't just open up Coachella again and then have another reckoning coming. And that's going to definitely impact both like budgets, ad spend, and personal spending as well for a lot of different things that that's out there. But I guess you also brought another important point too, where some people are definitely pulling back on kind of like the ad spends and budgets, but you're seeing some of the clients that you work with kind of like doubling down. Is it just because like right now CPM, because people are pulling back, CPMs potentially is like lower on that side, or and then maybe it's like if your competitor's not advertising, maybe it's better to just double down and just hit it while the iron's hot?
Yeah, so it really comes down to, for us, we look at a risk propensity per client, so how much risk they're willing to take. Some we're prepared for this kind of thing to happen, and we're like, cool, let's just go on a massive market spree and just take as much market share as we can right now. But we'll probably wait another, maybe 2 or 3 months and then go for that, because we'll wait until like all these other businesses are hurting a lot more. Because they're still spending on Facebook, they're still making money and stuff, but they just haven't got the same CPAs that we do, so we can just skyrocket it if we want to, and we just make them put the screws on a bit longer. And then on that side too, like we also look at the, with them, it's like, yeah, the CPMs are dropping, but also sometimes the CPAs are increasing because the market audience size in terms of purchases isn't the same size as what it was before pre-COVID. So it's getting smaller, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, because there's only so much you can spend when you're not making money.
Awesome. And for everybody that's tuning in both on Telegram as well as Facebook, feel free to fire off your questions as we're going through this talk here. See some questions coming through, but we'll go through that a little bit later on kind of like the next kind of a Q&A section as well. Kind of bringing back into the points, for the clients that you work with, do you work heavily just like on the e-com and B2C side, or do you also do a little bit on the B2B side as well too? So
we work in about 3 different sort of areas. So we do the B2C and the B2B, but I know people, and then we also do like CPA sort of stuff, which you could define into B2B or B2C, but we find that's where we take all the risk rather than someone else. So that's like SaaSes or even lead gen sort of stuff that we look into, and that kind of mixes up, make it a little bit different. But for us, our plan was when COVID came is that we pivoted to make sure that like 50% of our clients are going to be good during the troughs of COVID, and 50% of clients are going to be good during the highs of COVID. And then it was also looking at like, for them, it was like, look at alternative investing as well. So we were lucky to have a mate of mine who knows the investing game pretty well. So he's like, cool, go invest in these stocks, put a little bit of money in there, and that we can build up some cash flow ready for when when the business, this thing's going to come. So, you're ready for it to a certain extent, which was like investing in the VIX at the time. Which is really awesome. I thank him for that advice. So I only know so much, but all my mates and all my friends kind of tell me, and that's where I get all my good information. It's kind of like, it's a team of people that give it to me, not just me that knows all this sort of stuff.
I like that a lot, but also too, it's also giving you a very long-term strategy of taking kind of this opportune time as a buying opportunity. And I've always said this before in the past, it's like when the markets are super volatile, this is again with both like public stock markets as well as crypto. The crashes is where you can make a lot of money. Volatility does well too. We see like crazy pumps one, like Tesla just shooting up too. But obviously you have to navigate it with caution and risk, know what's going on. But like you said, always talk to kind of some experts that have seen some of those plays before. And yeah, it's coming to kind of like getting prepared for those moments as well has been presenting some great opportunities to win on the long
Yeah.
run. As well.
100%. Like, I'm no expert when it comes to investing. I'm probably one of the most amateur people with like 3 or 6 months kind of experience. So I don't take any of my financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
I take it from my mates who have been doing it for like, 9, 15 kind of years of investing and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you guys know what you're talking about. Okay.
And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, without getting too much into stocks too, they're going to see a lot of the earnings reports coming by at least the end of this month as well from a lot of the different companies. So that'll kind of be like a true telling sign where things might be winning and losing during kind of like COVID, at least the early signs if we can kind of see if maybe luxuries going down, luxury goods or cars, auto, real estate to different e-com products. But today, we'll see. Shopify and Amazon today broke their all-time high for the stocks too. So maybe Amazon's going to come out on top of all this. They're doing a massive
Oh, of
hiring
course they
spree.
will. I believe they're going to go absolutely. Walmart will be another one that I reckon will come out on top for
Walmart,
sure.
yep, Walmart's doubling down.
So like those sort of ones will go. Like even like your airplane companies and stuff. One of them's going to survive throughout this. Their stocks are horrible right now, but which one is it going to be that's going to survive? And that's the one that's going to basically almost have a monopoly over the entire marketplace for at least a good 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, and it's whoever can actually survive this kind of like recession / bear market is,
Yeah.
and just double downs and hits hard will rise back very much on the top actually.
And the reason why I brought up the investing was just because like you don't have to make your money back where you lost it. So like you can always look at alternative stuff. You don't have to try and make your money back in your business. So think about pivoting the business entirely, even if you run one. So it's like for some of our clients, it's like, cool, we know that, COVID's coming. My business is not going to sell in this sort of period because I run a restaurant. Well, cool, move into investing then for the moment until it comes back. And then you can start your restaurant back up. But at least then the investing side for them has given them the cash flow to keep the restaurant afloat until when it comes back and they want to start it up again.
Yeah, which for most traditional startups, they don't really go for that play. The only time I've ever really seen companies really go for that in managing their own treasury for investments and growth has been the crypto companies, obviously by the nature of them having their cash in crypto. But they fully understand that point of view where they use their actual treasury and capital to then further invest to manage their cash flow, but also create new opportunities to extend their runway. Obviously, again, if you've not done it before, you should definitely have somebody to help plan and give you that advice. But that was something that was different that I noticed a lot of the blockchain and crypto companies that I've worked with have managed very well in both reinvesting and diversifying. Of course, some of the bigger companies have done these different plays as well. But if you know what you're doing or you have some good advice or advisors to help you with that type of planning, I think that it is a very interesting strategy to help extend that runway that you have and also potentially even come out with profiting and doing even better too. But that's a little bit more on a higher strategy side. But that is definitely at play to keep in mind for those that could make that play. Definitely look out for that. Both crypto and stocks, there's definitely some stuff going on there. But other things too, like somebody in Stack and Growth was asking too, is there plays on acquisition, right? There's a lot of just tired and dead companies, assets, SaaS companies, websites. Or somebody just needs cash flow and they just want to flip something now in terms of a retired asset. This is definitely an opportunity now to think about how you can kind of expand your offering in business.
Yeah, there's lots of great buys. I'd almost, if it was me personally, I'd be leaving it for another 2 or 3 months just to once again the screws come on because the multiple will come down. Because like we want to buy like an agency, you only buy at a 1 to 2 times multiple maximum. Anything higher than that, you're paying a premium for nothing, really. Like you could just hire someone instead. And for us, we're not buying the book of clients, we're buying the talent and the systems and the processes. That's what you're really buying for when you buy an agency. There's also ones like we're going to play a couple of tactical plays where we're going to go after a couple of brands where they will be like, they're not working well during COVID, but we think they'll work fantastically after COVID, but we can just hold on to them. And just, we don't have to make sales of them right now. We can just leave them there. And then in 6 or 7 months time, we'll boot them back up again. But they've got massive organic traffic and stuff, but they're making no sales. So they have to sell.
That's a really good point too. Just like thinking of long term, if you can, you know, if you think that the market will come back in like the scope of like a year or two plus, just like projecting and seeing what can happen in terms of like the market or marketing in general for those companies to figure out which was going to rise back faster. Those are like great kind of like arbitrage plays and finding opportunities to just find when things are weak and then pull up fast in terms of the market pullback as well too. So always like thinking of that, and you know, as a marketer too, we always have to think about how these different, not necessarily being married to a niche and industry, but finding these opportunities is also part of the game as well, right?
Yeah, I think you have to be very
market opportunities.
yeah, as I say, I like to be very platform and market agnostic. I don't really have a preference of any sort of marketplace or any sort of platform or stuff like that. It's like, it's more so how you use and how well you market in that place than being good at one of them.
Which is a great, very like a strong, more traditional internet marketing mindset. You know, when you come through the startup and entrepreneur world, you're just like single minded and just like you got to go all in on one thing, which is great. But again, when we're coming with something that is shifting very fast in the dynamic marketplace, you want to be kind of like agile and figure out where opportunities are, cut losses, and move on beyond that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that now. The thing about like the focus versus being agnostic at the moment, just because like a lot of my, not a lot of them, but I've seen a lot of agencies and companies that will focus on like local businesses, and now they've had to shut down completely because they focused too niche, which has been what was being pushed out for like the last 1 and 2 years. And I was always like kind of against that. I was like, be more agnostic. It's less risk. Yes, it takes more work. Yes, it takes you longer to grow, but you need to kind of expand a bit more and have more than one niche that you're working in. Because I was just going to be stuck in that lane. You can never get out of it.
Yeah, for example, like if you just went all in on like restaurant marketing, you probably would have crushed it beforehand, and now it's just like absolute zero.
Yeah.
And now it's like it'd be harder to kind of like repivot. Same thing with like the event marketing and event marketers as well too. It's been a different dynamic, which is a great point.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So yeah, we have some questions coming through too. Let's see here. What is the best ad platform for sequencing? You want to jump into on that?
Okay, so he means like you target them on this one, and then you
retarget
them on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you want to do like a quick, just a quick highlight too, of like what he means by like ad platform sequencing.
Yeah, so sequencing is this idea of like you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. So like cold audiences, warmish kind of audiences, and very warm audiences at the end. So it's like these people who don't know about you, so top of funnel. People in the middle of funnel, they kind of know about you, they've checked out your ads, they've looked around. And then the remarketing audience, which is the warm funnel or the bottom of the funnel, which is like the really hot people. Basically, they went to your add to cart page, but they haven't actually purchased just yet. So let's go after those, and then you've got your existing customers after that. But that's another thing entirely. I think the question itself is a little bit incorrect as to like you shouldn't really try to niche down onto a certain platform as to which one's best for sequencing. It's more so like where is your audience, and where is that performing best for that part of the sequence on all the different platforms. So it's a thing of like some media buyers think in solo, which I think in like YouTube or native or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok. Like they're all different channels, therefore they're going to be in certain different parts of the sequencing. But you can have the sequence on all the channels, and then therefore the budget is kind of determines where it works best. So it's like I might have $1,000 on top of funnel on TikTok, but I might only have like $200 on Facebook instead. So it's like, it's still like every channel has its own sequencing that you can do in it. It's not like it has to be in a certain order to make it happen. And that changes with every niche as well. So it's an it depends answer, which doesn't give him the answer that he wants. But
yeah,
a good way is it like, I'll just say top of funnel. If I had to do it, like when I start stuff, I always start Facebook, just because of targeting sequencing and stuff. And because we know it so well and it has personality interests and stuff. So we can target very well based on that. And then anything for like retargeting display is like Facebook, YouTube display is the way that I do it. We also too don't do a lot of, we don't generally with like these big accounts tend to split top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. We generally can just go straight from top to bottom and don't have to worry about warming up the middle at all. If your ad creative and your landing pages are good enough, you don't have to worry about this whole sequencing and stuff to make people buy. People will just buy if you ask them to, and if you put the right information in front of them at the right time.
Those are great tips. You know, I think that there are some people that are attending here that are pure, just like single channel ad buyers, which is you know, that has that use as well too. But I like their point about thinking about omni-channel potentially, just because like users could be. It depends on the audience, obviously. Some people could be on different platforms different times of day, and especially like, let's say you're looking at some sort of like financial type of product, then you might be on Yahoo News versus like YouTube versus like Facebook. So like you can be all over the place. So depends really on the type of audience and sequence. And again, you can come back to kind of like testing out what works best for your company and product as well.
It also comes down to what content you're good at producing as well. So that plays a huge factor into what channel is going to work well for you and what not. So like a person who's good at video, YouTube's probably going to work better for it, no matter even if Yahoo News is better as a channel to run.
Yeah, and again, everybody, thanks again for a lot of new people kind of like tuning in. We got Zach, David, Erna, Sam, Julie coming in here. Everybody that's just like freshly tuning in. If you have any questions more on like media buying, ad buying, feel free to drop it into the messages here, and then we'll get to answering those questions. If not, we can continue also talking about a little bit more on the machine learning side side of things too, that you said that you've been applying to your media buying.
Yeah, so just been starting to play with that now. It's just like learning how to, because I think it's now starting to get to the precipice of it, so like the tip of it, of where it's now starting to be where machine learning and AI is actually starting to do a pretty good job at figuring out when are people going to buy, how they're going to buy, and how to go after and target them very well. Not so much from the creative and the content standpoint, but just from the making optimizations and the changes. So not quite an if this and that, which is like your reveal bots and those, and like your MSCs and those sort of places, but actual true learning based upon basically the same machine learning that Facebook and stuff applies to their CPO kind of stuff, but it doesn't always work.
And for that type of, are you using any like tools that people can access, or is this something that you guys have in-house?
At the moment, we're testing like 4 different tools and also testing our own in-house stuff at the moment, just to play with it, to kind of figure out. But the only issue with the machine learning AI, it takes about 3 months for it to really learn yeah. To be like, you'll be spending at least $100K a month to make it work. So you've got enough data points going in. So it's like, you can only do it for really, big kind of spends, and you got to have a pretty good propensity for risk, that you got to, wait for 3 months to make sure it kind of works to a certain extent. Like you got to let it run for 3 months to let it learn. Because generally what happens is it goes like this, and then like the agency will keep going like this usually, and then the AI will go like, oh yeah, and it'll take a big dip as it tests a whole bunch of stuff, and then it will just go, and then it spikes right up after about 3 months, we've found.
Nice. And so with using kind of the machine learning tools out there, then for the ad buying side, have you seen like overall has been a great uplift for the type of campaigns that you have been running, or this is just like
it depends, and it really comes down to the marketplace. So far we've noticed it's like a higher CPA generally does better when you have machine learning AI. So like if you got really small CPAs, so like, I'd say like $70 US or less, then it doesn't work that kind of great. It works greater for the higher end. And you also need like a lot of volume. The more volume you have, the much better it performs. So over time it can deal with that. But like an example of that was like a case study that came out for like, an example was Vodafone UK. So they were using a machine learning AI tool that did 1.7 million changes to the account across Facebook native, Google ads versus 40,000 by the agency across 3 months.
Wow. That's a lot of like little tweaks. It's like just deciding when to deliver, like what the different pricing and everything else.
Yeah, it was almost niching down to like 10 people or something. So like it was almost individually targeting a person based upon what ad they'll be likely to read at what time and all this sort of stuff. It was just bonkers to see what it was doing.
Yeah, the AI and robots are deciding kind of like what we're seeing in terms of ads, but the goal is to try to service the best ad and content piece through predictive.
Yeah, so it's just trying to predict what your patterns are and stuff, and therefore show you the right information and stuff at the right time, based upon your interests, where you've hung out. It looks at across your omni-channel, so it picks you up across all the channels. If something's not working on Facebook, it'll take the money from there and dump it into Google Display. If something's working there instead, so it just seems to actually take the, like, you could it can beat a senior media buyer across a 4 or 5 month period.
Nice. That's definitely some like Westworld stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we're kind of moving towards, because like, it's going to be like, I see the writing on the wall for media buyers to a certain extent of like, okay, in 5 to 10 years, most of our stuff is going to be taken over by machine learning AI, and we're going to be focused on strategy and creative content and stuff like that instead,
And
rather than
optimizing.
actually pushing of the buttons and optimizing stuff.
Which does bring an important point where how marketing, even media buying, ad buying, has been heavily going into much more big data play, as well as getting much more technical. That's where we're starting to see a lot more shifts instead of like traditional growth hacking, get into more like product marketing. Even data science has been having a huge overlap now, where a lot of these bigger companies or people that have invested in these like crazy AI, as well as these different in-house tools, might start having these huge advantages over some other companies. And I think we'll see that continue to accelerate in the next few years, as well as some of these companies start hiring their own in-house data scientists specifically for media buying, ad buying, and marketing as well too. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a place, though, I think, that for like in terms of like high level architecture and strategy to help even optimize the campaigns, or working with these data scientists in tandem. But yeah, some of the more smaller tasks of just maintaining and tweaking the campaign and ad spend, I think, could potentially in the future be eliminated once like these machine learning platforms become much more much more efficient and better.
Yeah, well, I think it'll still be a little while away, because like the big agencies don't want to do it, because that's how they make their money. Like they make their money on charging you for billables and stuff, not for how much money they actually spend. And they bring in a machine learning thing that does basically wipes out a third of their workforce to a certain extent. They can't charge for that, so they have to charge for less fees, and it doesn't really work out for them. So it's like there's a big, at the top end of the agency market, there's a big resistance to it so far at the moment because of that reason, I believe. From what I understand. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But then too, also like the data itself, trying to get that into a clean format to give it to the machine is very difficult to do. So like a good example of that was like Canva days, where we're getting like 1 million points of data per day across, legacy systems and new systems. And everyone thinks like these big companies have it all sorted out, and it's like they don't. The data's still pretty messy and stuff. You still got to go in like a rabbit hole, to try and find out where that piece of information is that you want. And then, okay, how do you put that back into the database and, summarize it up and then pull it out and push it into the system so I can actually understand it. And then you still got to guide that system like a baby.
Let's see. And then I guess another important question too that came was, how are you kind of like thinking about and preparing for kind of like a cookieless / first party data dominated world, especially with like the new different rules that are coming from like California and even like the all the different data rules out there with like the whole Cambridge Analytica kind of like imploding a lot of the targeting as well that's out there. Yeah. Has that kind of like affected a lot with what you've been doing lately, or just like you just had to kind of like adapt and shift with kind of like what you guys have been running in terms of like?
Really, it's just adapt and shift, and I think a lot of people are freaking out over it a bit too much. Like you think Facebook's going to let third party cookies disappear and not have some sort of a place for it to make sure it works for its biggest revenue source? Yeah, I don't think so. So it's like there's going to be a pivot. There's going to be some sort of solution at that stage. It's not right now, but something's going to happen, and that's why they've got offline events, and they've now got the what do you call it? Not offline events. It's the other one. I can't remember the server side tracking. So you can do first party if you want to. So like, there's already solutions and stuff coming out for that, and it's just like it's like anything. You make a new rule, and they're going to find a way to get around that rule. No problem whatsoever.
It's mostly just a lot of it is for compliance and just making sure that they got a lot of scrutiny because of all that stuff that's been happening. But marketers always still find a way.
From a Facebook standpoint, I can see the way around. I'm sure Google and stuff will do the same thing, because they're not going to really hurt themselves in their ad revenue, because that's like one of the biggest sort of ways of making money. So it's like that's not too much of a concern. But also too, like we were already doing marketing and stuff, and it was working well for companies before cookies and the internet existed. So I think there's going to be a bit of a resurgence in that, and a bit more in the, tracking by unique landing pages and these sorts of things to unique ads and those sorts of things if it has to be done. So there's always it really is just pivot with whatever happens. So it's like, and you should look forward to that, things happening and things changing, because people that were being lazy, it's going to pretty much just knock them off the plate. So it makes things easier for you. If you're willing to stick in and do the hard work, look forward to hard times, because it cleans out a lot of the crap in the marketplace.
Which is pretty applicable to even anything that's outside of like media and ad buying, whether it comes like the SEO with like huge updates, shifts from Google to Twitter, Instagram, even Instagram growth hacks as well. The harder it gets, like the barrier to entry is high. Brand new players can't really get in as high unless they take a long time to get the experience. And then anybody that gives up and fizzles out just creates more opportunities, similar to how people are not wanting to kind of like spend right now or get involved with the market or just like fizzle out. Like it just creates more opportunities, just like take over and dominate as well too. So I'll definitely second you on that point as well.
Yeah, so I love it. Like COVID stuff is like as bad as the economy and stuff. Like it's great for people who want to push through it. You get through the other side, and you're going to be much better than what everyone else is going to be at the moment.
I have to agree with that. Yeah, do you have any other questions right now coming in on, let's say, Zoom? Anybody have questions that they want to? I can also tap you guys in to ask a question live as well too. I don't know if Daniel, Chris, Graham, Kyle, anybody, Natasha, Nolan, you guys have any questions on kind of like media buying, ad buying side? Nobody has a question so far. Same thing with Facebook. If you have any other questions, feel free to answer to come through as well. Yeah, I guess also too, Josh. I guess from your side, I guess have you is all the different clients that you work with kind of like global as well, or has it just been like regional, heavily like in Australia or like in Western countries, Asia? Kind of like, have you seen different markets perform differently?
Yeah, so like most of our clients are international. We have hardly any Australian clients, which is kind of funny because I'm based here, but most of our clients are US, UAE, UK, Europe, kind of based. So like we've noticed UK is doing pretty well. US, you guys have been going down a bit overall. So that's like, but we expect that to be a resurgence at some point. And then Australia's kind of like been pretty standard, but all of a sudden like we've been going down, but we're now starting to come back up again. So we're just seeing like everyone's starting to go back up in that slight upward trend at the moment. We're just wondering how long that upward trend is going to last for before it goes back down again. And then you've also got to take into the account the fact of like all the stimulus and stuff that's been pumped into the marketplace, and how's that going to play out in like 12 or 18 months when they have to claw back all that money somehow. So how they're going to get that back from the economy, how's that going to happen? What rules and regulations are going to come in place for all that sort of stuff. So it's going to be, we're still at risk of, I believe, another GFC down the track of 12 or 18 months just because of how much stimulus they've put in. So it's kind of like, it's going to be the next president's problem or the next prime minister's problem to deal with, but it's going to be a huge problem at the time.
To think about, yeah, definitely. Let's see here. We have Chris. Chris has a question. Chris, how's it going, man?
Hey, good. Thanks for the talk. It's awesome. I've got just a question. We did some Facebook ads last August of last year. We basically have an app that basically automatically edits videos for you at jump cut editing, removes all the dead space with no video. Cool. And we got put into like we got put into a Facebook group, lifetime deals, and we had like 2,000 people in that group. It was our first week of sales. We sold like $35,000 worth. We started running ads, and we were excited. It was our first time. We were like, oh my God, if it performs well and perform well as an ad. But for some reason, but can you properly, it says my connection's unstable.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but yeah, we can now.
Yeah, so we thought it was going to perform well as an ad, and it did 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden it just started to fizzle out. So we've been kind of staying off Facebook ads just because we were a little bit burnt out from last time. But now we're looking to get back into it, and we're looking at it as just like a lead gen tool that we can hand off to our sales team. And we're just trying to figure out like what should we be doing right now to make that successful. Or
Yeah.
is that
So
too general of a question?
no, I can give you some sort. It's a bit general, but I can give you some sort of specifics around it to kind of let you go off and run with it. So normally
Yeah.
I'll go like 5 audiences as a test, 3 ads per audience at least. So an interest-based audience, a lookalike audience, a remarketing audience, and then probably another 1 or 2 interest-based. I might look at that as well. So 1 sec. Just gonna shut my door. My kids are running around.
I love the background, Justin.
Apologies for that.
Nope.
But no, it's cool that you do jump cuts. So like I will be doing some sort of product demo that shows it. I would do a testimonial reel. I would also have case studies and stuff on your website that talks about how really good it is. So like that's the sort of ad sort of style that I would do. And then for the targeting, like make sure that you're removing your contact page, like your privacy policy, your disclaimer pages for remarketing. So make sure they're on exclusion because you don't want to remarket people that have gone to those pages because they're pretty much bots and they're worthless. So that's the sort of stuff I'd go for. And then I'd probably put between $100 to $200 per ad set as a test. But that really comes down to what your budget is. So if it's really small, maybe start with 5 or 20 and just see how that works for you, and then go from there and then scale up the campaigns that are working. I'll probably leave your remarketing on at least $5 per day, no matter how well it's working or not, because you're probably going to get a lot of sales from that just vicariously, people checking you out directly and not coming through the ad specifically.
That was awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all
I
right.
have to go back and
just make sure,
listen to
make sure your pixels installed properly. That's another big one. A lot of people incorrectly install pixels and don't turn on advanced matching.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
No problem.
And then we have another question also too from Nolan. Let's see, Nolan, are you there?
Yeah,
I think you're cutting off a little bit. You there, Nolan? No, it's all good. If not, it's okay, Nolan. I think I found your question here on the Q&A. His question is, what are some of the criteria when you look at when you're looking at potential clients to determine if they're qualified for you?
Is this for an agency, Nolan, or is this just like in general? I'd assume it's for an agency, so I'll answer it that way.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So for me, like for us, it's like a propensity for risk. So someone who's like willing to take risks. So like a question we'll ask is like, if we spent 10K and didn't get you any sales, what would you do? And I'm looking for an answer like, okay, what data did you learn? You know, what did you learn about the audience? What did you learn about the ads? You know, is it going towards the right trajectory? This sort of stuff. That's the answer I'm looking for. Whereas like someone will say like, I'll fire you. That's a client I'm not going to work with because that's someone that doesn't understand the volatility of marketing. So that's like one of the main questions that I ask. Another one that I look for is like if they're going to, you know, when you send the contract and stuff, if they're all paying the butt and they start, you know, trying to want to change a whole bunch of pieces to it, that's pretty much just a direct correlation to someone that's going to be a really painful client to deal with in the future as well. The other one is I like to ask questions about what they did with their previous agency and why they didn't like their previous agency that they had previously. So that really gives me good insight as to what kind of person they are. And then also like what kind of, how they treat the agency, how they talk to them. And then also too, for us, when we do qualification questions, that's like obviously ad spend, CPAs, these sorts of, you know, the basic sort of questions. But we also have a 30-day prove to me kind of clause in our contract. So it's like they have 30 days to prove that we want to work with them or not. And then after 30 days, we decide if we want to work with them or not. We've only brought that in like the last 2 or 3 months, but it's been absolutely fantastic. It keeps clients in line. So like we tell them that like, if you're not being respectful and stuff to us, then we'll happily drop you in 30 days. You're not our biggest client. You're not, you know, we've got enough money that we don't need to have you. Like we're doing it because we enjoy working with you and not because, you know, we need your money. And I think that's a big thing about agencies. Once you have enough money in the bank, enough capital, that you don't act desperate for everyone's money that you need. So you can drop clients and you can act from that level of authority. And that helps a lot with qualifying clients and also with the fact of like making sure they don't overstep their boundaries as to what is and isn't acceptable, that you've set the boundaries as the agency.
Hopefully that answers your questions, Nolan. I think, yeah, just like understanding, setting expectations, but also just identifying early on the type of client and type of business they're running as well too. Let's see. Oh, Daniel. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was on mute for a little bit as well too. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Nolan. If you do have any other follow-up questions to that, we can add more to that a little bit later. Or if you need anything clarified, feel free to drop it in the chat. So too. So yeah, little connection issues.
Bloody D.
Yeah, no, it's all good. um, okay, yeah, Nolan says thanks.
No
Yeah,
problem, Nolan.
yeah, Daniel, did you have any questions too also on that regarding on the ad buying, media buying side? If not, it's all good.
I was gonna say we should call out D and see if he's got any questions.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, let's see. We have D says he's just giving a shout out. D Dang from over there. Familiar faces
He's
also
over up
too.
in Brisbane, I think, at the moment.
Brisbane?
So from
Yeah.
Right Hook Media. So another solid ass agency.
Nice. Shout out to D. Thanks for tuning in as well. Yeah, I think we can kind of, I guess, just wrap up on the last little points. I guess, Josh, you want to share any kind of like last little thoughts on kind of like the current marketplace with COVID's affecting things?
Yeah, well, in a second, Daniel just asked how good are the AIs for ad buying. They're pretty decent there. Like they are pretty complex. But like I said, it's only for really the bigger end of the market at the moment. So at least they've got to be at least spending, like I said, 100K per month for at least 3 months. And you got to be ready to take the risk for 3 months. Like it doesn't always work out, but it's about the 70% situation that does so far that we've tested. So we've tested it on about 12 clients now. And the problem is that really frustrates me about the AI stuff is that they don't post about their losses. They only post about everything they win. And it's like, I want to know where, like, I know you guys can't work in every marketplace, but you can work really well in some marketplaces. So it's really cool and it's awesome that you said, but be a bit more honest with me. Don't give me all your marketing speak. Give me the honest truth about where it does and doesn't work, because these things aren't cheap. So like the general cost for marketing machine learning AI stuff is a minimum like 10, 15 grand per month minimum. So yeah, Daniel is a bit like a black box, unfortunately. You can see what changes it does make in the platforms. So you can like jump into Google or your Facebook and it tells you all the changes and stuff it made, but trying to keep track of that is just good luck. When it's making that, 1.7 million changes in 3 months and it's only making between 50 to 60 changes per day, just trying to, that's not the best use of your time. So it's kind of like, running a CPO campaign on Facebook. It's a black box to a certain extent. You don't know how it's targeting. You don't know how it's optimizing for it, but it's working. So cool. Off you go. So you can also build stuff on top of these machine stuff. So your own sort of, proprietary learning sort of systems and stuff and how you want them to work. And then also on top of that, like you still need someone to kind of monitor and watch it. So it's like a kid. So machine learning, like treat it like a kid. You got to teach it. You got to, as it grows into a teen and adolescent, it gets better and better and better. But you got to still teach it and educate it. And it's all about how you teach it and educate it that makes it work or not work to a certain extent.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Daniel, regarding.
Yeah, I'd say it's, as you said, yeah, it's like a proprietary trading system. Like if you think about it that way, it works very similar to like a proprietary auto investing bot kind of thing, where you give it the parameters and stuff, but then it kind of figures it out itself. Where that's a bit higher than the if this and that of like your reveal bots and stuff like that. So it's actually figuring out and making connections based upon the information it's getting. Where if this and that is kind of like based upon parameters that you set. So it works in certain areas. Yeah, reveal bots good. It's not fantastic. Like I said, it's if this and that, and it's not making connection synapses. So I still like reveal bot. We still use it every so often for identifying ads and stuff that are winning and pushing them up into the bidding mechanism and stuff. But when you come towards like if you compare a reveal bot to like a machine learning, it's kind of like comparing a reveal bot to a senior media buyer. That's the kind of difference that you're making once it starts learning. And the cool thing about machine learning is after about, or AI and that sort of stuff, and it's all buzzwords. And I'm sorry, I can't distill it further because it is such a stupid black box.
It is. Right?
And I wish I could understand it better myself, but it's like trying to open up someone's brain and then trying to pick apart that brain without actually knowing the highways around the brain. So it's just like, that's what it's like. And it's the fact that it could just make these conclusions of audiences and stuff that you would never have thought of, and that RevealBot and stuff will never think of, or Magic will never think of. So it would go, oh yeah, you know, for some fitness brand or something, we're going to go target grandmas and 75 that are actually interested in this and actually buy it. And you're like, you would never have thought to test that audience. You'd be like, that's never going to work, whatever. You know, I'm not going to touch that. And like RevealBot wouldn't even know that audience would exist, because you've set the parameters yourself. So you're restricting yourself by what you know. Whereas the machine's like, everything's possible. Now let's just figure out which one's going to work.
And then I guess one follow is like, is there any open source platforms? I don't know any at the current moment.
Only one I know of is maybe Watson. So that's the one you can build upon.
Okay.
But you have to know your machine learning and AI sort of stuff and be a data scientist to make that happen. And then once again, you run into the problem of the data issue of supplying the information and the data itself in a format that it can understand and work with really well. So if someone builds a AI or machine learning program for basically taking someone's raw mess of data and then cleaning that up so another machine can understand it, that person's going to make a lot of money.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I guess that's we can kind of like wrap up that point on the machine learning and AI side. Oh, Daniel's keep coming with questions here. It looks like there's room for Amplitude style companies to fill.
I love Amplitude. They're awesome. But once again, you've got other examples, so like Looker. So like if someone built a Looker for like this would be awesome. So Looker builds like, instead of having to understand SQL, you can just do drag and drop, which is I think like how Amplitude works as well from memory. So it's like your data scientist builds a SQL underlay database, and then your everyday users can just drag and drop stuff and just go, oh yeah, this and this and this and this together. And that makes the answer to that, instead of having to learn how to do, you know, a 400-page script of SQL. But, you know, you're talking about a very complex problem of multiple people have stored data in certain different ways based upon what they think is the right way to do it. And therefore you got to somehow distill that information, teach it to the machine, and then pass it across to the actual machine that's actually going to do the media buying and bidding for you.
And then optimizing it, and then just retweaking the strategy and campaigns as well too.
Yeah, and that's why it's taken so long for it to like get to where it is now, because there are so many roadblocks from that we've caused as being humans and stuff to actually allow it to do the best job it can possible. If it was a machine feeding machine, like it'd be perfect and it would have been working like 5 years ago. We're the problem, we're the bottleneck.
Yeah, and also too is just like a talent shortage too. Is just like getting, if you're trying to do it something in house, is like you have to find a data scientist and make sure that they're also applying the right things,
methodologies, and you got to have someone to double check it. And then like all data scientists aren't, you know, they're data scientists. They don't have a marketing aspect to them, so they don't understand from a marketing standpoint. Sometimes some do, which is awesome, but it's the same as like a marketer and developer. Same issue you sort of have as developers. It's like, I'm doing this for a marketing reason. Like I'm trying to achieve this, and they're like, oh yeah, I've got it done exactly what you said me to do. I'm like, think outside the box, please, a bit.
Yeah, outside the code, and that just becomes even more challenges. And that's where we'll typically see the bigger companies. You know, they can have those resources to invest, especially on the data scientists are not cheap.
No, they're like 150K.
Yeah, that's
like minimum.
That's like the average minimum, and that price just keeps clocking up each of the salaries. And the more specialized and unicorn you get somebody that's just like, oh, data scientist for marketing, data scientist for bio, etc. Like the more domain knowledge and unicorn they are, like the price just clocks up. And
because the money they can return to a company is absolutely insane from understanding how the data works correctly if they know how to apply it.
Yeah, multiple.
So like, if you put it like that, for example, like a Canva where you're getting 1 million points of data per day, if you understand that correctly, you can increase the conversion rate by 0.2%. That's like an extra, 15 mil to the bottom line every year.
Yeah, which it is going back to, in some relations outside of just media buying, back into like product marketing. You know, the more that we can understand the users and data, especially if you do have an app, product, SaaS, or even e-com businesses that you can kind of flow. Outside of the media buying side, you can still take a look at the customer data inbound as well as the product flows, and still applying this same exact learning to provide some sort of predictive marketing for your current customers as well, the different notifications, pop-ups, retargeting in this case as well. So there are a few other tools that get into that little rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of like the high level where a lot of the really advanced companies are trying to attain to. And if you could really build that killer app that could do it, then more power to you.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it'll be a startup that'll achieve that before a big company will. Just because the big companies just aren't nimble enough. They're stuck in their ways. They've got their processes they have to do. They've got all this stuff built over time, that all this legacy stuff they have to apply. They haven't got much of a choice. So I reckon it's going to come from some startup that has a fresh slate and can do it however they want, that gets a decent amount of funding. Or some really smart guys that just do it out of the back of a garage. And it's going to be like your next Google to a certain extent.
Yeah, or is there's those that are just like finding one exact niche or method or industry that they have like a drag and drop tool that they built or a platform that will execute like a certain amount. It might be like a one-hit wonder utility, could be good for the long run. We'll see.
Yeah, or it could be a pivot too, actually. So there's a couple of AI machines that haven't been built for marketing yet that are out there for like construction industry and stuff like this. And they could be, if with a couple of tweaks and stuff, could be applied to machine learning and be absolutely crazy if they actually took it. Because it's like they have a machine learning to kind of like help build out the spec for like what it costs to build the Empire State Building down to the last bolt, to a certain example. So it's like if you got that sort of machine power, you can add that to like media buying and set the parameters and stuff and the learning mechanisms for it. Fine.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I guess we can kind of like wrap up here if nobody else has any other questions. I guess also too, Josh, do you want to share anything else or present anything else on your side, or you're good?
No, I was just coming on to chat to you and answer questions and stuff. I've got nothing. Like if you want to check out me, you can go to Cubatica.com and you can check out me and the team there if you want. That's about the biggest plug you ever get.
Nice. And yeah, anybody that have any questions or want to have their business look at for Cubatica, use a Cubatica to help them with their media and ad buying, definitely hit them up. You can find Josh on LinkedIn, Facebook, or wherever on the interwebs.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, around the place. I'm starting to actually do more content now. I was behind the scenes for quite a while, and now I've been thrusted into the limelight.
It's a great time to share your knowledge and create content now. And it's always good to hear from people that are actually have experience and actually have managed real ads and ad spend, not some random like course kid. And that's only run like their first like 1,000 and saying that they got 10x ROI or return on ad spend and selling an ebook.
Oh, I love those. I always laugh. I'm like, how much do you spend and how much does it cost and how much profit do you actually make?
That's always a big question mark for some. Let's see. Oh, okay.
Chris is sitting in like
well, Graham has a little side question. It's not necessarily.
You can answer that one. I have no idea about the
Graham
blockchain and risk assets.
How would you say the positive correlations between blockchain and risk assets? I won't go too much into it. All I have to say is that so far, at least, even if it's manipulated right now, the blockchain and crypto assets have been very closely tied to the public markets and stock markets. So whether that's true or not, we don't really know. There could be somebody manipulating. Again, just looking in terms of like crypto is only like $200 billion market cap, which is barely like a small tech stock. Like Amazon is like 1.1 trillion, which is like 5x, like almost 5x the times of the whole crypto market, which means that it doesn't take that much to actually manipulate the market and move it up and down. And it only can take like $10 million or $20 million to just shift the price up and down and clear out the markets and clear all the shorts and longs and futures. So so for now, it's strongly correlated. We'll have to see if it's truly pulls away or not, and it really depends on what the manipulators want to do. I'll just leave it as that. Same thing with like just like the public markets. It's like we're still amid in a massive crisis, and sure there's a stimulus check coming through, but some stocks are hitting some really good highs today, which is just there's no logical basis for it, to be honest. That's it. Which I'm not like, again, like no pro trading advice here, no pro financial advice. I always go out, same with Josh, seek out some other experts that are in the space. Hopefully we'll bring some other speakers that are just really good in understanding monetary policies and kind of like the macroeconomic view of everything too. Well, I'll have to get a guest speaker for that later.
Yeah.
Well too. So
Yeah. Well, the stock market's based upon perception, not based on reality.
yeah, and it's very clear at this point, for me being kind of just still an amateur person, but heavy into crypto, and seeing all the manipulations and seeing what's going on right now. It's just, a lot of it's emotional based. We'll have to see. Stock values are bad bets right now. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, thanks again, Josh. And there's a lot of people that are going to watch this recorded. Shout out to them as well. We'll get this copies in the hands of everybody, and this will be also re-uploaded on YouTube as well. Again, if you want to reach out to Josh as well as Cubatica, I'll give a shout out and link in all the social posts and content out there. And thanks again, Josh, for taking this morning, early morning on your time, for coming in and sharing your knowledge.
No problem at all, mate. I get woken up at 4:30 by my kids, so this is like normal. So I was like, come on, like, yeah, 7, perfectly fine.
Awesome. All right, thanks again.
Thanks, Justin. Cheers.